While shooting here in Old Town San Diego, we stayed at the Cosmopolitan Hotel. It's a wonderful, lovely 1870s style hotel, a bed and breakfast. Many people have said the place is haunted, and we experienced a few things ourselves. Didn't intend it, but that's what happened. We early on learned about some of the hauntings here at the Cosmopolitan. Ryan told us about the wine room downstairs. Now that's part of the old Casa de Bandini house. The floors down there are the original floors from Casa de Bandini. The wine room is a very small place. We wandered in, and Bonnie began to feel as if she was experiencing pains of pregnancy. Given the ladies who've been here over the years, including the Bandini daughters and others, this observation was really not too surprising. But it was what happened next that got my attention. Bonnie began to fall backward, then forward, backward, then forward. This went on for probably a minute or two. I was helping, keep making sure she didn't fall over, but she kept going, backward and forward. After a while, this stopped, and she began pointing, first with her right finger, then her left, a little higher each time, and then I noticed the toes started pointing, one versus the other. At one point, Bonnie looked over at me, still fairly conscious of what was going on around her, and said, "Move out of the way, I'm about to turn." And within moments, she began dancing. Now, the dance she was executing was an old version of the Mexican tarantella. It turns out the tarantella was a very common dance in the 1860s and 70s and 80s here at Old Town. Many journals exist that mention the grand tarantellas of the various parties at various places throughout Old Town, including, of course, the Casa de Bandini. The owner, Joe Maluso, also came and saw the dance. He was concerned, of course, about his glassware and such, with Bonnie whirling around the room. Here's what Joe had to say.
She was dancing back and forth and came sideways here, and most of the time her eyes were closed or half closed, and she just sort of was disappeared in that energy.
So in summary, Bonnie was dancing about a very small area. Her eyes were closed about half the time, executing a very complex dance that normally takes years to learn in a way that indicated that she had been doing it forever. I also noticed after the dance that Bonnie was completely normal physiologically. Her heart rate, her breath, nothing about her gave away the fact that she'd been executing an extremely rigorous dance only moments before. I talked to a PhD physiologist about this, and he said that short of special training, no person can actually do this kind of exercise, be it dancing or weightlifting, for about 2 minutes, as Bonnie had. In his opinion, this is a very anomalous phenomenon. It's unexplainable. Perhaps you're wondering what it's like to go through this experience. Here are Bonnie's thoughts.
Well, to be honest, my thoughts on this I'm still trying to process, because I had not been through a circumstance like this before. And it's distant, but it's also intimate at the same time. And for those that might be worried about whether I was possessed or anything like that, that is not remotely the case. And I do agree to experience the circumstances when I get into an environment. So it's important to know that it was agreed upon. So nothing took over or anything of that nature. But it was a sense of actually being trained a little bit ahead of time with the energy movements to make sure that I was capable of what was to come ahead. And at the time that the dance movements were actually happening, I thought my eyes were open the entire time. Now, witnesses that saw the dance explained to me after the fact that about half the time my eyes were closed. And I was dancing next to a very elaborate table that's fully set up with china and so on. And I had no perception of that table, and also avoided it. That was the concern of the owner, was that I was going to hit into that table and damage his property. And that was of no concern whatsoever while this was going on. And so this energy took me over and had its way with me to some extent. And I don't have any background in dance. And so it was very interesting to listen to the witnesses after the fact say that the steps were very precise and that it was an actual formal kind of dance. And it's not a dance that I'm even familiar with. So it was a very unusual experience. Left me energized. I was not winded at all. And the other thing, just a small little detail, was that I was actually wearing slip-on shoes. And so to be performing a dance of that nature with shoes that slip off and on is even more remarkable that I even kept my shoes on, never mind did the dance moves.
December 1829, there is a writing by Albert Robinson about the blessing ceremony that was held here at the Bandini House. In the sala, after the cloth was removed from the table, a Spanish couple started dancing a very romantic Spanish dance. The woman holding up her skirts, eyes cast to the ground, and the gentleman very straight with his hand behind him. The dance was called the El Jarabe, and it was a very passionate dance, and Robinson just had to make a note of that on paper because it was just so beautiful and moved him.
So, we had some interesting conversations, some interesting verification, heard stories from other employees, had our own experiences. As a matter of fact, I was sleeping in this very room, room 5, one night, and heard at 4:20 in the morning people walking around outside. The whole place is in lockdown at that time. There's nobody around the place. And yet, nobody was outside on the balcony, yet I heard those sounds as clear as day. The following morning at breakfast, I smelled a brief whiff of perfume in the corner overlooking the plaza. I looked around forever to try to find a tree that might have emitted that particular scent. None was to be found. So I have my own experiences here.